Well, Burak, thank you very much for jumping on the podcast with me. Now, I would first how to kick this off. If you could introduce yourself, because I know that I would definitely do some mistakes, you know. So if you could give me like your background, where you started, and how did you get to where you are right now?
Okay, that's my pleasure, Simon. Thank you very much for letting me talk this podcast. So yeah, I'm Mehmet Burak Dikmen, and I born and raised in Turkey, and I have started my career at a bank around 2015. And maybe you have remembered that around that time, fintech and neobanks just has been rising, and it's a new wave of fintechs. And at bank, I was researching that new fintech and neobank boom, and I was preparing research papers and some analysis for the upper management. And then, luckily, our management figured out somehow banks and the fintechs should have collaborated. And that was quite fascinating to see how banks and fintechs collaborate together around that time. And then I jumped into a telco company and managed their fintech subsidiaries. That was a quite different experience because of after working at a banking industry, I jumped into a tech industry, and that telecom company called Turkcell has fintech subsidiaries and own e-money license and payment license and credit license in Turkey. So it was a quite interesting story for me, and because I have seen perspective of TechFin, because they called TechFin, not fintech, because of the perspectives of technology. They actually prefer looking at the eyes of technology, and that was quite interesting time for me. And then my colleagues from the bank, we worked together, and they decided to invest they decided to build a new neobank in Germany, and then they just invited me to build it from scratch. So it was a really quite good offer for me, because actually Germany is the last country I would move at that time.
Uh,
And but it was quite interesting, and that was the dream of our dream of mine, because I research a lot about the neobanks and fintechs with my colleagues around to 2025 to 2015. So now I'm ready. I was ready to build that neobank. Then I moved to Germany and with my family, and built Insha from scratch. That was really challenging and time consuming, and we really put a lot of effort, and it was really challenging. So it was around 2018, and it was just the starting area of the banking as a service, and all of these Revolut, Monzo, and 26, all of these banks as just beginning of their journey at that time, and all of these banks just competitor of the Insha. So it was a quite amazing experience for me to build Insha from scratch. But of course, there are different reasons to uh, fail Insha at that time. But our bank uh, our team at bank just moved to another companies, and I decided to move from the company and then jump into another initiative called Root. Around that time, Root was Paragönder. Paragönder means send money,
uh,
and its main mission is to sending money to Turkey. And then we built a neobank on top of Paragönder and transferred it to a Root with our partner bank. So each bank owns the Roots at that time, And Ishbank AG has a German banking license in Germany. And together with them and together with Ishbank AG, we were leveraging their banking license and their distribution channels. We built a neobank in Germany, and that was also quite interesting challenge because we built it with our resources this time and with our bank, and that was quite interesting. And then Ishbank AG sold the company to another company of Ishbank Group, and together with our new group company called Mocha United. So we built another SME and retail banking solution in UK this time, because our group company Mocha United has a great ambition to build an SME banking in UK. So it's live right now. We built it and we released it last month. So it's very new, and we are not doing any marketing and not telling anyone right now. Just do some tests with our colleagues and see the results. But yeah, UK market is another new challenge for me, and it's quite fascinating.
Oh my God, you almost saw it all, because you know exactly what you're saying. At the beginning of the fintech boom many years back, you were at the forefront and you were competing with N26. You know, that's definitely, and Revolut and all of these basically players.
Yeah.
That's definitely a tough spot to be in. I'm super curious to learn, about your experience, and also expanding to UK market, which is it's madness. Everybody wants to go to UK, right? Because there are the money, but that's the hardest part, because everybody wants to go there. So a lot of competition. And so if we look, you get really big experience in building neobanks, building these products. Are you more as a product guy? Are you pro business guy? What is your specialty, let's say, expertise?
Generally, I was in the middle of product and growth initiatives and managing partnerships and business model and grow our revenue and the user base. And at the same time, I built together with our team to product. So I was in the middle,
Yeah.
between products, growth, and partnerships. So the business model, I have a friend, and there's a really good phrase he's saying. I can speak three languages. He says, of course, German, English, and fintech. I can say Turkish, English, and fintech. Not German yet. I'm not very fluent in German, so uh,
No, no, no. That's actually good. Basically almost every corner of building a bank. Because yes, if you want to build a product, you need to understand what people want and where to get them, etc. Yeah. So what I would like to discuss here is, I did it this series on how to build a new bank, which I still want to go over, but I want to discuss, pick up your brain on, your experience in Inisha, your experience with the root, etc., and also kind of a little bit more personalize this on using cards, right? Because this is something that the topic is really really hot for me right now. uh, and I will include basically this into the report, and build basically one segment of how to build a neobank and cards, right? Because you've got experience with consumer cards, and now basically also B2B cards, so that's going to be SME cards, so that's going to be interesting. So if I come to Barak and I say, hey, I've got this idea, I want to go to UK, or and I want to build a SME bank, or actually let's say something like a little competitor of maybe Starling, Monzo, Moniz, and all these, because they have both, right? They have retail banking and SME banking. Maybe it's maybe too broad, but what would you tell me, right? If I tell you, hey, Burak, I need your help, what shall I do as a first step?
So personally, if you come to me with this question, there is only one answer: don't do it. Uh,
Everybody
yeah,
says that, right?
yeah. But by the way, 4 years ago, I was talking one of the neobank founder in USA, and he was building payments company at that time, and he's just sold it his neobank. And I asked the same question to him: what do you recommend anyone who just want to build a neobank? Don't do it. Don't never do it, because as an individual, it's really challenging and tough, and without any competitive edge. It could be a money, it could be a team, it could be a really deep knowledge, and connection. I don't know. It could be anything. And without that, it's really challenging, and you have to find a really good idea, and somehow you have to really invest a lot of money, because it's dependent. This business model is very dependent, and you have to comply with regulations, and you have to build a really amazing operation, and talented team who really knows this business well. So it's really challenging, and as an individual, it's really challenging thing to do. But but I can, of course, I was kidding, half kidding. And if you ask me, what about retail banking, I would say never go it, never do it,
Yeah.
because retail banking is right now is very costly and very pushy. Regulatory, all the regulators in UK and Europe are very pushy, and
Mm.
it's really challenging. And I don't see any. I don't know, maybe because of I was in this fintech and no banking, especially on the retail side, more than 10 years. Maybe I'm blind right now, but again, I don't see any good spot and any competitive edge to jump in on the retail side. But for the business banking side, yes, there are some different possibilities and some opportunities around there. And you can try something on business side, but maybe not purely business banking solutions, but maybe you can try build business platforms, and some
Yeah.
payments collections, or credit scoring, or I don't know, any on the payment collection side, for example. I really see a great potential and opportunity, and also at the same time credits and some KYB solutions really have a demand in the market. So it depends. It depends what you want to build. But for the retail side, I don't see any opportunity. But on the business side, yeah, it could be something that you can build.
This is the
But of course, this is for the. By the way, this is for the individuals. If you backed by a bank, for example, and a lot of money and a knowledge and human resources, then of course you can try to challenge with the others. That's another story.
I think if somebody goes as an individual, actually, I met a guy who was an individual. He had previous business that he sold, and then he was like, "I will build a fintech," right? And yeah, it's just madness, because you're competing with the biggest players like Lloyd's banking. You're competing with local big banks, also small players. But even if I still think you get a point that even if you have big investors, behind, still on a retail side, me personally, I honestly don't know, unless based on what you just said, I think there are some interesting things. Back in the days, I think there was so many neobanks, because there was a lot of investments, first of all, and second of all, a lot of space. So people were testing. It was new. UX was one of the things how to differentiate. Niche was another thing how to differentiate, right? Incha had
Yes.
a special niche, and then also I think back in the days it was a lot about features, right? About like, okay, so we have this cool feature that nobody has, then they have this feature that nobody has. But I think over past 4 or 5 years, this difference is kind of blurred, and the main features that were like game changers. The other players had adopted, etc. And a lot of the niches that people had, they kind of died out. So I remember this eco-friendly fintech that was issuing cards because then you were collecting loyalty points on the cards, but it was so niche, it was hard to scale up, etc. So you actually, I agree, and even the co-founder of Zazu, which is South African neobank, he said the same thing. In retail, there's not many companies or many things that you can innovate, but in SME banking, you can, right? So what would you say right now is the critical thing how to be successful? You mentioned capitals. What about, is it maybe the feature? Is it the niche, or is it the UX, or what is the thing that if I want to build an SME neobank right now, what would be the thing that you told me to focus on first?
So of course, every market has its own story in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So and UK is another story. So it really depends where you want to build that neobank. And for example, in Germany, the companies and the banks are not digitalized so much, and there is I believe there is a still potential for SME neobanks, and many neobanks actually right now just try to build in Germany as well. And but at the same time, it's really tough because Germans are not so digitalized, companies are not digitalized, and they don't like it. They don't want to see any digital initiatives because, for example, I have a really good anecdote old from 5 years ago, when our customer has two different
Mm-hmm.
phones. One of the phone for the daily usage, and another phone is the banking apps.
Mm-hmm.
And she put it into locker.
The second one for the banking app.
Yes, and she put it in the locker and just lock it. So the mentality of people really different, and it's really depends where you want to build your neobank, and you really have to understand the people and their mindsets. This is very critical, and of course, this is for it. This anecdote comes from the individual person, but that individual person in Germany also has business. So that's business also operating in the same way that she operating for individual needs. So it's the same thing. And in Europe, every country has its own story. Germany, France, Netherlands. I think you have to localize your product for each country, and all of these country has its own distinct demands and culture and expectations. And I think the build one product for all Europe and UK and just copycat the same product
Yeah.
right now is not the good case study, because, for example, Revolut, Restyling, Monzo just offer this core products, and their product is very not niche and very uh, it's just a banking products. But if you want to really build products for the niche communities, so you need to understand your customer first. This is very critical. And yeah, that's
What about differences? So if we are talking about Turkey, Germany, and the UK, what are the key differences that you see in the users that they demand? For example, this lady was definitely in Germany about security. Let's say, I guess if I
yeah,
understood right. So
yeah.
what other things you see in different that are different in these cultures? For example, in terms of features or yeah, how does that reflect in banking from your experience?
Turkey is just another case because all from what I see, all Turkish banks act like a neobank,
Hmm.
and they have really good infrastructure. and they have really good apps, and their internet banking is really amazing, and their offer and their credit knowledge and deposit knowledge is really, really well, and they know how to do this banking business. And because of the inflation, for example, Turkey really had a high inflation rates during the last 30 years, and money has to move fast.
Mm.
So you have to send money to another person very fast. It's a requirement. It's a mandatory because of the inflation. But in Europe, people can wait. Just because of that, for example, SEPA Instant just come into place last month, and it was a mandatory.
Mm.
People didn't demand it. Regulatory, just regulation. The regulator pushed it, and just SEPA Instant uh, comes into place in Europe. But in Turkey, that was just that was happened 10 more than I don't know right now exactly, but more than 20 years maybe. It
Mm.
was really fast and efficient. So in Turkey, for example, I have read that Revolut entered the Turkish market, and it's really challenging. I believe that will be really challenging for them because Turkish banks really know
Yeah.
credit business very well. Credit cards, for example, in the was in the pockets of our families more than 30, 40 years. And people are really adopted this model, and banks know how to get money from people from this business model. And they really know of the credit games and credit cards and mortgages. They really know of this business game. And Revolut right now just try to understand and learn, for example, credit in even in their own markets. So I think that will be really challenging
Mm.
for Revolut. Of course, maybe Revolut just shocked me again. And because, yeah, Revolut is just a little bit exception.
You know how it
But
is.
let's see.
Never settle. Never settle. That's their motto. Let's see how that. But I know about actually this about Turkey. I heard it that I think they in Turkey they have even their own network that Visa and Mastercard is there. But I think that they have some kind of their own scheme now. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, Troy.
Yeah.
That's called Troy. It's like for example, Germans also has this Giro cards, and this is also a very good anecdote. Giro cards was really plays an important role of the German payments market because many people using still Giro cards, and Visa and Mastercard just popularized last 5 years. Before that, people just got used to use their Giro card because all of these big banks in Germany just pushes these Giro cards. And then Troy card is Troy in Turkey, the Giro card in Germany. So Girocard is a good example for Turkey to see how you can compete with Visa and Mastercard, then replaces the same to Turkey. So yeah, Turkey just right now try to popularize this Troy, but of course insurances and some online spendings are very important and critical issue. These Visa and Mastercard schemes,
Oh.
yeah, do it well.
And for example, right? So cards are I kind of cannot even imagine that I wouldn't have a card, right? You mentioned that there is some features for some businesses, remittance, right? Sending money, sending them fast, sending them cheap, and all these. Do you think still like having a card is critical feature, or what is the spending behavior of the target audience that you have? Is it must have or not anymore?
Uh, it's challenging. Actually, it's I think it's a very core product, and somehow you have to do it if you want to build a neobank and offer a solution, business banking solution or retail banking solution. It's a must. It's a mandatory. But it could be costly at the beginning for your neobank, and if there is no good use case for your card, I can recommend you not to build it at the beginning
Yeah.
and focus on something else. Then build your card product, because card product is um, not profitable alone, and you have to build something else, and somehow you have to connect it, your card product, with your another product. So only uh, only accounts and the cards is not so profitable. So you have to find some different ways to make profit with your card solution. That's a
Interesting.
mandatory.
No, hey, but it's okay. It's mandatory. I like it. I like it. And nowadays, what I see actually, what you're saying, because it's kind of, so let's say, spin-off of the companies. Right? They do something. They do right now. I speak the most people I speak is a payment institution that does payments, or lending, right? Some sort of lending. So whatever, right? B2B lending, and they are making money on it, but they feel like, okay, so we are actually the second player because the bank is the first player, and then they come to us for a niche use case. So that's could be want to get more bigger chunk of the pie, right? So they are like, okay, we need to introduce cards, and exactly what we are saying, because then you are calculating the business model, how much money is gonna make it. Do you think
Yeah.
is it like so what I understood, it's kind of must have even though you're not making money on it, or you
Yes.
would say, uh-huh.
Yes, somehow you have to build your card operations and your card product, but alone it's not profitable. So you have to find different ways to make it profitable. For example, I believe credit cards will rise in Europe, and because there are no many offers, credit card offers, and all the products in the market are similar, are not very mature. So we need more credit cards products in the market, and I think that is a really great opportunity for companies who want to build credit cards solutions. But of course, there's a reason. There's a reason for that. That's why that is not mature. Because, for example, Germans don't like that, and they don't want to spend money they don't have it in their
Yeah,
pockets.
yeah,
That
yeah.
is some kind of a cultural thing. But I believe other European countries and also the younger Germans are try to adapt this new world. And people right now make less money than before, and purchasing power in the Europe just declining. So people somehow need credit card solutions to manage their money better. So I think that is an opportunity for European markets, and I believe credit cards will be the good solution. But yeah, that is my perspective, of course.
Well, and would you say, for example, if I want to launch, so I'm doing a lending in SME, and I want to have this extra offer of cards. So whenever I give them the money, they will use my account and they will use my card. Should I do EMI? Should I apply for EMI license? Should I do bin sponsorship, or should I do white label card issuing? What is the setup that you would recommend me to begin with? Let's say that I already have money and I'm basically adding this up, right, to build like this kind of neobank experience to my business.
So you want to build a business banking,
You know,
right?
so let's say
Yeah.
that I'm providing microloans to SMEs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they only, so I send them the money, right? I only send the money to their accounts, but I want to develop this offering of they will use my accounts, They will use my cards and basically then the banking interface as well, because my main product is lending, but I
Mhm.
want them to spend the money on my accounts with my card, and then so they come more often to use my service than others.
Yeah. For example, that is the one of the use case I really like it, and there are many different use case similar to this one. And people just need to give advance to their employees or their partners, and somehow they need to spend money. For example, logistic companies just and can give the credit cards to their logistic employees and drivers, and they can spend it all through the gas stations and
Yeah.
others hotels. So it's a really good use case, and I think it's very also effective to manage how you manage your accounts. And there are some other great use cases, and I think that could be also profitable way to build a cart business. And you have to find similar niches and use cases for your product and somehow leverage that distribution as your advantage.
Do you have any experience with working with Visa, applying for the membership and the fee structure, and compare in comparison with basically outsourcing this? You mentioned banking as a service, right? So maybe just work with partner who already have everything set up, and you will just use them for this feature. What would you recommend, or do you have experience with that?
Well, for the cart side, yeah, it's really there are two different models. Actually, three different models. First, you can work directly bin sponsor and card processor.
Yeah.
You can find some partners who also specialize in bean sponsorships and the card processing. That is the one case. You just outsource all business, bean sponsorship and the card processing to one partner, and
Mm.
you just focus on your operation and the marketing side. That could be one thing that you can do. And another thing, then you can get your own bean sponsorship
Mm.
from Visa and Mastercard, and find a processing partners for your company, and at least better flexibility and manage your operations effectively and take more risks, for example, on your company. And this is the second way, how flexible. And the third way is to build your own processing setup from scratch. That will be a nightmare, I believe. So I think the best way is to get your own license, BIN sponsorship license from Visa and Mastercard, and work with the processors, because it's really costly and not efficient to build by own. So
That's the thing. No, no, definitely. Honestly, I think that's the word. That's some for somebody who is already having cards and doing tons and tons of traffic, a lot of transactions, and they're like, okay, now we need to cut the margins or not cut the margins. We need to increase the margins, cut the costs, and then maybe or maybe if they have some use case and the processor is not flexible, then
mhm.
and the bin sponsor, for example, if you're outsourcing the bins, then some so we started to do white label card issuing. So basically that means you do the loans, and then everything is on us with the cards. We onboard the clients. It's your brand, let's say, but everything is with us with Becta, right? Which is amazing because you launch
Totally.
it like this and it's done. It's a little bit more expensive because or you're not making as much money, but it's great for validation of the target audience. But problem
Absolutely.
what you mentioned is the flexibility. You cannot do anything if they say, hey, we don't want to onboard this client, the, and then if it's too many clients that
Uh,
we don't want to onboard, you're like, okay, how should I make the money? But the second one with the bin sponsorship, but what I see is a little bit tricky here is the fees with Visa and Mastercard, and fees to get EMI license, and fees to run the processing center, outsource it, right? But still fees for that is or you need to hire people to deal with it, right? When you do white label card issuing, it's a little bit less operations. So I don't have experience with that yet, from like firsthand from the founders, who would say, hey, I would definitely go to white label card issuing for first couple of years, or actually skip this part. Don't do white label card issuing only unless XYZ, but go to AMI license right away, because you will never make money with white label. I don't know actually. Do you have any experience on this?
It is it's a trade-off, and it's a quite challenging question, because I believe banking as a service is a great way, card as a service is a great way to enter a market and validate your assumption. First, you have to validate your assumption before investing a lot of money to your business, right?
Mm,
So before taking any license and build your team. So I think it's a great way to start and validate your assumption with cards as a service or banking as a service solutions. So white label cards solution is a good way if you have a really good idea. And for example, if you have a large customer base already, so then you can try this business because you can charge your customers.
mm,
Yes, your margin will be shrink if you work with white label model, but at the same time you can charge your customers at a margin, and you can offer this product as an additional value added services. So it depends on the business model, I believe, and your existent customer base. I think white label model largely very beneficial for big companies who already has many users.
mm,
I think that is very, very reasonable for them. And also, it's reasonable to start and test your assumption. But you definitely, if you see a traction, even a little at the beginning, you definitely somehow have to find money and just apply for a license and build your own operation to become much more profitable and increase your margin. That is an essential. And I think for banking operations, that is essential.
mm. Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, interesting. How to build a trust when you are a new player in the market? You just started to offer. You just basically launched it, or maybe you entered the market from different region. What would you say is the best way how to build a trust?
Yeah, I think business, all business is based on a trust, but banking business uh,
On
is
steroids, trust on steroids. Uh,
yeah, it's every your business model has to be a trust model. So it's really challenging to win someone's trust to put all their hard-earned money to your account.
mm,
That's really challenging. And for example, at Insha, we really try to build communities, because we have seen that paid marketing or brand awareness campaigns not so effective and
mm,
costly. And we then try to change our model and try to build communities, small but effective communities,
mm,
and organizing events with people. And we touch people, we talk to them, we organize different topics and seminars with our community. And I also, for example, as you know, Insha was the first Islamic neobank in
mm,
Europe. So I personally went to a mosque and talked to people and try to tell them about the difference between Islamic banking and the traditional
mm,
banking. I try to touch them. I try to communicate and engage with them. That's really
mm,
important thing once what you want to build up trust. And apart from that, for example, we work with sales distributors because, for example, they have really good customer base, and they are already selling some different financial products to their customer base. And we work with them, and they touch those people. They directly tell them about Insha. And for example, at Root, we tried many different things, but we were lucky at Root just because we leverage each bank name. Each bank is the one of the biggest bank in Turkey. Actually, it's the biggest private bank, and has really good brand awareness among our community in Europe. So we leverage their trust in their brand name to leverage a trust in Europe. And also we, for example, use their banking channels to distribute our product through their channels. But still the common point, as you're aware, is the engaging with people. It's an essential, I believe. At the beginning, you have to touch and engage with people. It's challenging, it's tough, it's time consuming. It's not a feeling that you're progressing really well and good speed, but Rome wasn't built a day, right? So it takes time. It takes time to build and trust. So it's not easy, but once you achieve it, it pays you well.
Interesting, because as you mentioned, that people in this digital age, actually, that everybody is used to do everything online. I have never seen anybody from Revolut. Maybe once some guy, on banking event, but I have never seen, and I still don't trust them, by the way, right?
Yes, that is the issue.
I still use them as a kind of. I use them for day to day, but I have maybe 200 euros on the account,
Yes. That is important. That is the important point. I believe most of the people, you are from fintech world, I'm from fintech world, but I don't work with neobanks. I don't put all of my money to neobank and do, for example, high volume transactions with neobanks, because I know that somehow I have a feeling that somehow my transaction could be stopped by purchasing a car, for example. They don't allow me to purchase that car at that time, and that's destroy all the trust that they try to build.
You mentioned one interesting thing that, excuse me, that even your partners are kind of your distribution channel. I'm thinking, right, we were just discussing that you're recommending to build somebody neobank, ideally with already some product in place. So let's say a spin-off, right? So it's totally great to launch a neobank, or sometimes it just for understanding, I feel like neobank is basically having an account and having a card, and then sending money or spending with the card. But so I have this product, this lending product, and now I will have a partner who can distribute. If I choose my banking partner wisely, or they can distribute my cards, but with the cards business, I can get the lending business, actually, right? So maybe this could be also a way how to scale up, how to bring new revenue to business, not only for your cards, right? Everybody's like, okay, we are going to build the cards and how much money we will make on the cards, but actually it's not that much about cards. It's really about if you can make money in the whole ecosystem. So that's interesting.
Absolutely.
What partners, by the way, like for example, I cannot imagine who. So the bank is offering the services of Root, right? Is that correct? So you said that your partner is a bank, right? And bank is
our partner was a bank. But right now, Root has its own payment license in the UK, and right now we are trying to upgrade that payment license to e-money license, and that's why we are working with e-money partners right now, and we are a distributor of their e-money services, and we have a client partner at the same time, because Yeah, in UK, it's really challenging to build something. It's a very competitive market, and regulator really knows this business well, and it's a little bit different than the European markets.
Yeah, yeah. If you good luck with FCA, yes, definitely. And and if you need help with issuer processing, let me know, because
Okay.
we have our own EMI license in UK, and yes, it's madness. Decta is doing acquiring there, so they are focused on acquiring, but we do also acquire issuing as well. So we know the market, and it's tough. And I think it comes back to what you kind of mentioned, is you need to have a strong value proposition for a certain niche and something, let's say, cutting edge. So I think that's good. Hey, that was super fun conversation. Burak, thank you very much. Any final remarks for people who are deciding to launch a new bank or start issuing cards? Don't do it.
Um, Find your niche and know your customer and know what you want to do, and start with right tools and right partners. So if you don't start with the right partners, that is, for example, will be a nightmare for you, and somehow all of your roadmap at some point dependent on your partner. And yeah, it's important to start right.
Yeah. Awesome. Burak, thank you very much. It was
That's
amazing.
my pleasure.
Pleasure on my side.